So, hi everybody, welcome to our latest video in the Head in the Cloud series. Today I've got Jaan Brunken here with me, who is co-founder and COO of Wingfield. Really excited to have you here today, Jaan. Jaan and Wingfield are on a mission to revolutionize and digitize the sport of tennis. Really right from the grassroots kind of up to those aspiring budding tennis pros. So Jaan, welcome, nice to have you today.
Thanks for having me, Michael. It's a pleasure. Yeah, thanks for the nice intro.
Well, good. Well, I'm gonna throw it back across to you, to the other side of the court, so to speak, to you to do a quick introduction of yourself. So, for those that don't know who you are, and don't know who Wingfield are, can you just give me a quick introduction into yourself and into the business?
Of course. So basically, I'm coming from the tennis world. So I was a tennis professional in my previous career. I played my whole life. I started with 5 years, and then spent my whole childhood on tennis courts, and then also the first steps in the professional world. And actually, my past, as you mentioned, Wingfield is in tennis, is kind of was the starting point also of the business, because what I and also one of my co-founders, what we realized when we were playing professional is that on the big stage, you already have those technologies that improve the players' performances. You have on every ATP and WTA tour, you have stats that basically give you insights into your game. You have technologies such as Hawkeye, which are basically changing how the sport is being played from a rule basis, because they're making line calls and all of that. And that was really the starting point where we were like, okay, hey, but if you just look at a normal tennis court, there's just nothing around there. Everything looks still like in the 90s when I played and when I started. So we were looking at, okay, how can we use technology to actually bring those values that you already have on a big stage to basically every club in the world. And that was really the starting point, how we developed our Wingfield court, our Wingfield system, which is essentially a smart net post that should achieve those things.
I was going to say, to talk about that. So you've developed a smart net post with an inbuilt camera, right? But it's not just a camera, is it? It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, so basically you have this net post. It has 2 cameras inside. So one net post with one camera to the left and one to the right. And then basically you have also a processor unit inside of those of this net post. And what you do basically as a player, you don't buy a net post, because nobody wants to carry a net post to the tennis court. What you actually do as a user, as a player, is you download our app, the Wingfield app, and then you use this app to connect with the net post on court. So it's basically like boarding a plane. You have a QR code which you hold in front of the camera. This is how you connect. And then basically you just play your normal session, whether it's a match session, different training games that you play with your coach. And after the session, you get all the insights of that session right on your fingertips on your phone. You can take it home, talk, and make debriefing sessions with your coach with the data and with the video. That's how it looks from a user perspective, obviously.
Sure. But I think from what you said before, it's not just that it provides you the video of the match or the video of the shots. There's some clever AI machine learning tech in there, right?
Yeah, obviously. So basically we have the net post, which is gathering all the videos that our software uses to basically detect everything that happens on court. So we are detecting the movement of the players, the movement of the tennis balls, where the balls are being played, and all those kinds of insights are being used to actually show you after your session what you have been doing right and wrong. So where would you be doing your mistakes? How fast are your forehands? How fast is your serve? And show you really the areas of where you can improve as a player and how you perform in each of those areas against other players.
Okay, so it gives you it's kind of like a scoring system. So
yeah, definitely. So this is one thing that we since we are now in the market for we founded our company like 3 years ago, so we have some experience now with how our system is being used. And one thing that we really notice is, it's obvious from other products, you really have it to make it as easy as possible. So basically, you don't want to have, as a normal amateur player, you don't want to have 1,000 stats or 1,000 numbers. You just want to have this one number which says okay, this is how good your forehand, how good your backhand, and how good your service. And this is exactly what we did. So basically, we developed our own tracking game, so to say, with predefined drills that the players can do, and they get rated between 0 and 100.
Okay.
And if they are 100, they should go on the Pro Tour. To keep it this way, so it's really hard to achieve 100.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a nice feature on the one hand for coaches to assess their players, but of course it's also nice for the coaches to use it because it gives just kind of a gamification character to their practice sessions. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say if I was to put myself in the shoes of an aspiring tennis pro, like, you know, I'd started out and I was, you know, 12 or 13 years or maybe older, but I'd started hitting my backhand, and my backhand's a 20 out of 100 to start off with. And I think one of the things I liked about it when we talked about it before is that you said that the reason why lots of people kind of drop out of tennis is because they can't necessarily see their progression. And so it's obviously, you know, like any sport, it takes a long time to really, you know, get proficient and good. But across the course of maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, I might see that score creep up from 20 to 23, 25. So I know that I'm progressing.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically what comes into the score are two factors in tennis. It's always about how accurate you play. So how accurate the ball is landing close to a line. And the second thing is how fast you are able to play there. So it's always, you have to find this magic ratio between how fast, how much risk do you want to take, and how good you can control that speed. And that's also how our coaches are using it. You have this one score with the two factors coming in, and then you can focus with the player on, okay, you know, we're not looking at the score on top. We are looking at improving your accuracy. Just, we want to make you play more accurate, or the other way around. We just want to focus on your speed, that you get more speed on your shots. And just then by magic, so to say, the top level score also improves because you're improving your underlying factors.
So if you're improving your speed, your accuracy, I think you said spin as well, one of the other things.
Yeah, it's exactly how fast, how high the ball is flying over the net. So that's everything going into it. Yeah. Okay.
Look, I mean, I was, you know, when we had the talk, I think it was last week, I was fascinated by this. I think it's brilliant. And you said, so in the current phase, so you're launching this in Germany initially, right? And it's taken it because you've had to kind of work with the German Tennis Federation, is that right? To make some rule changes and to kind of get this in so that it can be usable as right for not just for practice, but for in a live game situation as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so correct. So we started out in Germany, or the DACH region, so also Austria and Switzerland. And we're really focused on a product that can be used in training. So in a training scenario, that's where the scores evolved. That's where our product was basically first used in. But of course, now since we have quite some number of courts and built some infrastructure, it's also attractive for a federation to use this digital infrastructure for whatever reasons. And one thing that we think is very powerful is that once you have a high number of digitized courts within a federation or within a country, you can basically use this digital infrastructure to provide new types of competition. So what we are currently developing together with the German Tennis Federation is that you can use basically our courts for on-demand competition, which basically means you and your friend, or you and some of your club members, you just go on court, you check in with the device, and you can play an official match, which counts towards your ranking or towards your official rating. And what we do in the background, which is more a service for the federation, is we make sure that the match was actually played fair. Because the big risk for the federation, obviously, is that the credibility of the ranking just goes to shit, so to say.
Yeah.
If everybody starts cheating. This is what we can basically make sure with our technology for the federation.
And is that because if somebody was playing a match and let's just say their score generally across the average of, let's just say 60 out of 100, if they played that match and their average score was 40 out of 100, it would indicate that something was amiss there. It would indicate that perhaps they've thrown that game.
Exactly. That's one of the factors. There are many things that are going into that. So, for example, also we are basically looking at two factors. We are looking on the one factor that stats are not deviating so much over the process of one match. So, for example, if you start out very strong and you serve your serve with 120 or 140 kilometers an hour, and then suddenly you drop it for 4 serves and then you go up again, this would be like a red flag for us to really check it. And the other thing, of course, is to compare this match across the history of all your matches. Because if as soon as you start playing on our courts, we basically are some kind of your second or as your co-coach and really know how you play. And then those things can also be then alerted. And then one of our match reviewers will actually review the match and say, okay, this match cannot be validated and will not count towards the ranking.
Yeah. It's it's clever stuff. I mean, I was really interested and fascinated because as grassroots tennis has probably not really changed in 100 years or something like that. You've got a net, 2 posts, and the court is the same size, white lines, 2 players. It's not it's not changed except for some of the equipment. So so if you was a budding tennis player, and you track your performance, you track your speed of your serve, all that sort of thing. I mean, that's just gonna and this kind of gamification element of it, I think it's gonna really hopefully over the next 10 years really bolster that, and you see a lot more people get involved in tennis and taking and getting enjoyment from that as well, even as an amateur. It's like I don't play tennis so much, but I play golf, and I have an app that shows me how far I've hit the ball, how many, so that already exists in other sports, but not in tennis, obviously. But I think as well, you said that it can be applied in the future, not just to tennis, but to other racket sports or other sports that are played on a kind of smaller, similar sized court, right?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, in terms of tracking, so in terms of identifying flying objects, it's the underlying technology for all other sports. Of course, with the machine learning models that we're using for some use cases, there's some time of training and adaptation needed. But in general, I mean, it can be applied to, for example, volleyball, badminton, or tisch tennis, or sports like that. Or paddle, which is as we learned in the last years, huge in other countries. Skating is a very popular sport coming up.
Okay. As I said, I think it's really interesting. Now, in terms of so far as a business, obviously we've talked about the product and what it does, and its and the potential. But as a business so far, successfully, you've raised a fair bit of money already, right? So you've had 2 rounds of funding so far. I think you said it before. It was 2.7 million euros over 2 rounds of funding. I mean, look, that's impressive in itself. How did you go about raising that money? How did you? What was the process of actually securing that?
Yeah, I think it's some kind of our startup story. So everything other than the product is really it's not I would say a typical first-time founder story, because we started in Hanover, a small city here where nobody really understood sports tech. So nobody really knew, okay, why are you doing this? Is there any money involved? So we are like getting some first public grants here and there, but not real major funding. And then the first thing that happened, the first time we really felt, okay, we meet people with the same DNA, was when we were introduced to the Lead Sports Accelerator in Berlin, which is an accelerator founded by the grandchildren of Adi Dassler, so the founder of Adidas.
Wow.
And this was the first time where we really met people who have a strong sports background and a strong business background, and were really in conversation. Just we had the feeling, okay, they have the same DNA. It really is fun talking to them. And then we were 3 months in the accelerator program in Berlin, which was amazing time. And then together with them and their network, we raised our seed round back then in 2018, which was the first one, 1.2 million. So that's basically how that went in the introduction, and then towards the investment.
And then subsequent last year, I think you said it's 1.5 million in 2019. Look, obviously for any, again, like obviously budding entrepreneurs out there, or people that are in the in the startup space, obviously great to have raised that money, great achievement as well. But did once you then raise that money, did it add pressure, or did you feel a lot of more pressure when that actually kind of hit the bank?
Honestly, not really, because we were always like very excited what we could do with the money.
Yeah.
So hiring the first employees, building the first products, building the beta phase. And I think we are very, very lucky with our investors, because they are all sports-minded people. So they are really passionate about what we are doing, and they understand the bigger picture, and they trust us a lot. So I think in that sense, it was more of excitement what we could do with the funds, and not so much that we felt the pressure. Of course, then there also comes some, not everything runs according to plan, but then if you communicate transparent and and you don't do stuff that is like super risky, then everybody understands what you're doing at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's more excitement than stress.
Yeah.
Must have been a good day when you got the first when you got that first round of investment. I'm sure you had a few beers to celebrate.
Yeah, it was very nice. Yeah.
Look, I mean, you said it right there, that that not everything goes smoothly, not everything is kind of straight sailing, so to speak. I mean, what have been the biggest challenges so far that you have faced, and how did you? And then I suppose, how did you overcome them as well?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what part of the business you're looking at. I think in every part of the business we had like huge learnings. For example, very early we made the learning that just selling our system is not something that is going fast, because you are selling to tennis clubs, tennis facilities, and you just have to evaluate how long your sales cycle is. So we really learned that it's not 2 weeks, it's rather 2 months.
Right.
If we do sales, then of course we have hardware development. So and we have both parts. We have hardware and software, and you cannot compare those two processes, because in software you just fix something if you ship it not working. But if you produce a hardware piece that is not working, it takes weeks and weeks to fix it. So that's really something. So we had setbacks with in the hardware, with we had to wait long for suppliers delivering parts, all those kinds of things, which is I think normal for a hardware startup. And of course, then once everything is done, you build the software on the ground, you build the hardware, and then you think you did amazing stuff for 2 years, and then you give the product to your customer, and he's like, yeah, okay, but this is the start now, huh? Now you have to do a lot more things that it actually is so great as you think. And that was also our learning, that you have to go as early as possible with your, I mean, everybody says that, but it's just true that as early as possible you have to show your MVP or your prototype to a customer, and just make them use it, and give you feedback, and just focus on stuff that is really important for them, and not just things that are in your head.
And and that's important, because sometimes the way that these things actually get used, or the user what they might want to use it for, is different to how it was in your head. Different than the way you'd envisage it, or they use a particular feature in a different way than you imagined.
And perfect example of what you mentioned before in our conversation were the scores from 0 to 100, because we developed the system. We said, hey, you have every stat that you want to have, you know where your forehand is, your backhand is, but they said, yeah, okay, but I just want to have this one number which tells me how good I am. So basically it was not our initial idea to develop this kind of stroke scores. It was more that basically the customers gave us the feedback, and then we implemented it.
Perfect example of that, isn't it? Though you putting it out to someone, getting that feedback, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of changes and iterations of it along the way. But look, I mean, for me as well, one of the things that I thought, again, I think this can be really good, is this is not expensive stuff either, right? So I think when in terms of, I mean, you mentioned before that you're renting these, is that right? You're renting these to tennis clubs for not a great amount of money, right? How much would it cost a tennis club to get one of your smart net posts?
Yeah, so it's a 3-year contract that you're basically buying, so to say, or renting, and it's 1,300 to 1,400 a year, depending on payment options. So
Yeah.
if you
So,
pay everything up front, of course, we give you a discount.
so look, I mean, so this is really, for really accessible stuff for a very clever bit of tech, and then again for the users as well. I know you said to the users it's got an app, and again it's like I think you see a pretty negligible fee, I think, on a monthly basis, right?
Yeah. It's 9.99 a month for like some premium features, because from the very beginning we wanted to make the right person pay for our product, because if you rent the system, it's an improvement of the infrastructure for the person who runs the tennis court. So he has to pay the infrastructure, so to say. But the actual usage of the system, so if you use the app and all those kinds of things, this is done by the tennis coach or the tennis player. So that's the person who actually receives the value there. That's why we have this, on the one hand, B2B sales for the infrastructure, and then the B2C sales for the usage of our product, digital product, so to say.
Yeah. Look, and I think again, another thing that came out of our conversation. I mean, I just, when you see tech being put into something, revolutionising a sport or whatever, a sector, whatever it is, and and it doesn't cost a lot of money, and I think that combination of it's add a lot of value. It's really inexpensive. I think obviously I'm hopeful for you guys. I think it's exciting. I know it's in the DAC region at the moment. Anyone watching this in France or the UK, I think will hopefully be next in line, right? Or fairly soon, maybe 2021. So so that will, that I'm sure that will, be music to a lot of people's ears in the coming years. But look, look, as I said, I think I wanted to shoot this video. I thought what you're doing there is great. You're obviously a great, interesting guy. You've got a great backstory as well, and I'm sure there's plenty of people are going to be interested and hopefully inspired by this as well. So I'd like to thank everybody that's tuned into this, and to say thanks for watching. Obviously, thanks to you, Jaan, for agreeing to do this. And look, if you have enjoyed it, which I hope you have, please do like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Jaan, thank you very much.
Thank you.